Minister, good morning.
Good morning, and congrats on the new gig too.
Oh, thank you. Nice of you to say that. Look, you kind of had to sell your soul a little here to get this across the line. Was it cheaper or more expensive than you're expecting?
Oh, look, I always knew we'd have to negotiate in the Senate, and realistically, David Pocock, it was all on the issues. We were working things through constructively, but he was very insistent that there were some changes, in particular for small business, that he wanted to be able to make. And so we've ended up with something where there are additional protections for small business there, but we can still be really confident that this legislation is going to get wages moving. It'll help close the gender pay gap, and there'll be a better pathway for secure jobs than there used to be for people in Australia. So I'm still pretty excited we've got to this point.
How soon will wages actually move?
It'll depend on where you work. So there'll be some businesses, for example, which have refused to bargain with their staff where they used to, and the Better Off Overall test just became too complex. The getting rid of some of the red tape that we've got there will actually bring some of those businesses back to the table straight away. And also any businesses that are concerned, that actually don't want to be involved in multi-employer bargaining, the simple fix for them is for them to negotiate with their staff now and to do it over the next 6 months. So that opportunity will happen. And so you will see some workers where the movement happens very quickly. There'll be others where it's a longer process. But importantly, the framework will finally be there. It's been 10 years now where wages were deliberately kept low, and people's real wages today are lower than they were a decade ago, and that needed to come to an end.
Look, we had John Keogh, who's the economics editor from the AFR, on the show earlier. He said he's not sure how far this legislation will go to get wages moving, and he had some concerns. For instance, like, what incentive is there for a small business to grow when at the moment they're also copping it from every angle? You've got energy prices, supply issues. This is going to make it even tougher for them.
Oh, look, there's a big benefit for small businesses here that, because it hasn't been controversial, it hasn't hit the media in the same way. But there's a stream called the cooperative stream. And look, I remember way back when I first arrived here and I was Shadow Minister for Small Business, the small business organisations were saying, can't we have a simpler award? Just a simple document that only has the clauses that are relevant to us.
But this seems to make it more complex. That has been sort of the general analysis that certainly I've been reading this morning. And you've got business groups fearing this actually lead to more strikes, job losses, less flexibility and productivity. I mean, they're not insignificant concerns.
Oh, but they're all untrue. What you've just gone through. And I hear business saying it. No, but
businesses are lying?
No, what they're explaining, if you go through the bill in detail, multi-employer bargaining exists already in the Act. No one's been able to access it because the system is so complex. So anything that's about opening it up does in fact make the system simpler than it already is. In terms of industrial action and strikes, every limit on industrial action that is already in the legislation, in terms of making sure that there has to be a vote of the workforce, you can only do it in a bargaining period, all of those limits are there in the exact same form.
Are you saying that this legislation doesn't give unions greater power?
Oh, it gives workers generally more avenues to be able to get wages moving, and that's the right thing to do. And so, of course, if you're represented by a union, then that flows through. And if you're not, you've got more bargaining power as well. Wages will get moving as a result of this, but in terms of industrial action, the protections that are already in the legislation haven't changed at all.